Sally was a great employee, but now she's leaving you and wants to know if prospective employers can call you for a reference. What should you do? Hi entrepreneurs, I'm Vicky Brown, and you're in the right place if you want to engage your team, boost your business, and grow your leadership muscle. Now, while I know that particularly for good performers, your first inclination is to say an enthusiastic, "Of course," but let's stop and take a beat. Employee references are more complicated than they first appear. Sure, you want to help Sally move forward in her career, but the reality is you also have to keep an eye on protecting the company. Any reference from someone at a manager level or above is representing the company. So there's more to think of than initially meets the eye. When you think of getting or giving a reference for a former team member, you probably think of just telling the prospective employer what the job was, what they did for you, and how skilled they were or weren't. After all, honesty is the best policy and best defense, right? Well, not so fast. Let me ask you, can you successfully walk the tightrope between an untrue factual statement and an opinion? Well, if you're giving a negative reference, one of these could expose the company to liability for defamation. The difference between "he was late all the time" and "there were many times she was late" could be the difference between a lawsuit or not. Would you want to worry about parsing your words that carefully on a phone call? Listen, I'm an experienced HR professional and I wouldn't. And remember, even if you are just being honest, you'll still have to spend money to defend a claim. Another thing to consider, any reference should be in context. If the company terminated or negotiated an out package for an employee and someone who was not involved in that process gives a glowing reference, it could expose the company because it sends a mixed message. For that, among other reasons, all references, even letters, should be run by HR first. So, what should you, as a business owner, do about the whole reference question? Well, first up, have a policy. There isn't a world where dealing with references on an ad hoc basis puts your company in a good position. Now, in the world of HR, we would, of course, prefer that all references go through HR, without exception. But I know that in the real world, that rarely happens. So the first thing you should think about is phone references versus letter references. Because phone references tend to be on demand, it can leave too much open to interpretation and someone's memory of what was said or what wasn't. And there's the question of whether or not you tell the person that someone asked for a reference on them. For all those reasons, we have a policy of providing written-only references. We'll fill out the form that many reference-seeking companies will send us. We only provide the employment equivalent of name, rank, and serial number. You know, dates of employment, job title, and sometimes salary. Although in many states, it's not legal to ask for prior salary. Or we'll send them a letter with that information. We don't get into quality of work or performance questions. Now, we do allow reference letters provided to the departing employee. But before that letter gets into their hands, there are lots of things to think about and lots of boxes to tick. Any reference letter should again state name, rank, and serial number. You might also want to include the most recent or significant job responsibilities. And if the person did a good job, then stick to what you observed, again, in relation to those job responsibilities. And use specific examples if you can. Steer clear of personality assumptions, either positive or negative. She's shy but does great work, or he sometimes has a bad attitude. Wandering into that type of purely subjective territory can cause all sorts of problems. Now, I know you may take issue with me around the bad attitude statement. Most clients do. You may think, I know he has a bad attitude because I can see it. Everybody can see it. However, I would simply challenge you with, are you observing the attitude or are you observing specific behaviors that you don't like? Such as not taking direction or not showing flexibility or communicating poorly to colleagues and customers. On a side note, yes, I know I sound like I've lapsed into HR Westworld territory, but the fact of the matter is you can, and most likely will, be challenged on how do you know someone's attitude. And the answer is you don't. What you do know, what you can observe, are a series of unwanted behaviors. Okay, back to the reference question. Let's chat a little about social media, actually all social media, but particularly LinkedIn. Their recommendation feature is a stealth time bomb. People ask for and are given recommendations from managers, etc. on LinkedIn all the time. But again, even if they don't know it, those statements are considered representations from the company. So if that employee has performance issues that you have to deal with, those recommendations may very well come into play, and not in a good way. So again, having a policy that allows for written references only, either by form or letter from your company, requiring that all references be reviewed by HR before release, and prohibiting managers from doing social references for people on their teams, you put the company in a good position to be protected. By the way, one big stop sign to all of this is if the employee was suspected of or found to have been engaged in serious misconduct, sexual harassment, or workplace violence. Or if you're legally required to provide performance information, such as for law enforcement jobs. In those cases, absolutely do not take this on yourself. Consult legal counsel before you respond to any inquiry. Why? Because you could actually face liability if you don't disclose certain information. Now, different states have different laws on the subject, so again, always check with counsel. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe and share. And if you're struggling with how to get your business off the ground and what comes next, then check out the Leader's Journey Business Builder. I designed this completely free video series to help you with figuring out who your customer is and where to find her, how to sell without selling, how to package and deliver your service, and much, much more. Check it out by using the link leadersjourneyexperience.com. And remember, your inspired leadership is the secret sauce to having a high-performance team and a wildly successful business you'll love. I'll see you next time on Leader's Journey.